Hey, streaming Wasteland, it's your Uncle Ringo and your Bear Greg over here saying hi from the studio.
Behind. We need a brigade behind.
Hand
Corner.
corner
Housekeeping.
family meal. Sous chef.
Yeah, this week we're talking about episode 3 of The Bear, The Brigade. Or I guess it's just Brigade. It's not The Brigade. Couple, I guess, new-ish faces. They are credited in all the episodes, but we don't really get to see them very often in this episode. We get Manny and Angel. Richard Esteras is playing Manny. Jose M. Cervantes is playing Angel, or Angel. I think they call him Angel in the show, but he might pronounce it differently in character. Those two have been around. They've been in the background shots, but I think this is the first time they've had lines. There's also a very special guest appearance. The moderator in the beginning of this episode is played by the one and only Molly Ringwald. She is famous for a trillion things, but most people know her probably from Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club. I didn't recognize her. I've seen The Breakfast Club once. No, that's not true. I've seen The Breakfast Club like 3 times. It's one of those movies I think I'm supposed to like, but I just don't. Like, I don't hate it. It's fine. Just I don't like it very much. This episode has a 7.8 rating on IMDb. We still have not cracked into the 8s yet at this point. And before we get into it, how long do you think you could last in this kitchen, Ringo? Because this episode, I was like, I quit.
I'm not really like a violent person, but I've never enjoyed the whole aspect of paying your dues to join a group of people, especially considering like the military has its own, bullshit that you got to go through. Not only as a basic training, but you also have to go ahead and be like fucking, what's the term that frats are constantly thrown, like
Pledged.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's not quite as bad as like some of the stories you get from frats, but I mean, it happens. I think I'd punch a fucker if I was in here.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, a day.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think for me, like, I like Carmy as a character, but I'm like putting myself in the shoes and like working in this dude's kitchen where he's just like, as we'll talk about in a little bit, he bolts out the door mid-workday to, without any explanation. I kind of be like, all right, homie, like, I got to get out of here. You hired somebody, you put them in charge nominally, and then you bolt out the door while they're making their speech about being in charge. You can kind of fuck off with this. This is too much of a mess.
Oh, especially because like I don't know. One of the things, and like I don't talk very highly about my time in the military, but one of the things that I really appreciated was when you had a transfer of power. Someone new came in.
Mm-hmm.
The
You would
person
storm the Capitol on January 6th. That's what you do,
exactly,
right? Peaceful transfer.
exactly, yeah. It's very peaceful. You threaten to go ahead and behead everybody. But no, like I've had a couple captains and lieutenants and officers that went ahead and like changed position on like who was leading the whole entire unit. The old commander usually stays around long enough to go ahead and like explain how things are going to go, and then express to the unit, "Hey, this is my replacement. Don't be mean." And then they leave. There's enough time they actually like stay there for the whole entire thing.
Yeah. Whenever we used to have a new employee under my supervision, I used to tell everybody, I want you to treat him with the same respect you treat me, which is absolutely none. Yeah. So anyway, let's jump into it. We open up with Carmy. I believe I don't think he's actually listening to it, but some Oasis is playing not Oasis. Sorry, Genesis is playing in the background, or Phil Collins and Genesis. I'm not 100% sure how it's credited. He's walking around Chicago alone, looking at the lake, all sad. And he finally goes to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. There's a woman giving a speech, Molly Ringwald, talking about she was not a victim. She was an enabler.
I know I played a part in his abuse, and I'm really mad at myself for that. But if there's anything good that came out of it, it's that it made me realize that the best thing for me to do is just to try to keep my side of the street clean.
She ends this little segment. It's like it's a nice like minute and a half to open the show. But she ends this little speech with talking about how she has to remove herself from toxic environments, and the show then smash cuts. So it zooms in on Carmy sitting in the back of this church, like kind of quietly, and she literally says, like, remove yourself from toxic situations. And there's a 3-second pause, and we get right to a chaotic lunch with Richie and Sydney yelling at each other.
From any situation that is or could become toxic.
What is wrong with you fucking jack-offs? We're down 6 sausage pepper, 5 greens to the ravioli. Let's go.
We're down that because you are not firing.
Chef, chill.
I gotta say that zoom in was super fucking horror style. Just
Yeah. Well, I bet he is realizing, like, he was like, please don't say that, like, where I work is part of the problem. And then she's basically like, Carmy, where you work is in fact part of the problem. And he's like, fuck.
I honestly thought this was going to turn out to be like a dream sequence where he was self-actualizing his problems.
Or like Molly Ringwald was going to turn into a bear and start attacking him like in the first episode.
Not like this.
They just keep doing callbacks.
He's just, don't be a victim. And it's just like at home, Carmy's kind of like, so he's there in this chaotic lunch service. He's trying to get Sydney to stop shouting. He's trying to get Richie to stop shouting. He has basically no authority over Richie, which is an ongoing problem so far. But he does kind of word up Sydney, like, we need to be better than this. As always, Richie is wrong and Sydney is right in these situations. He's like, why don't we have the food? She's like, why aren't you fucking putting in orders? Through the POS system. And he's like, oh, I don't know how to use this fucking system. And I think this will be a nice blanket trigger warning for the rest of the time we run this series. Richie uses some very uncool language throughout. We're not going to repeat it here, but if we use clips of it, I'll throw a trigger warning up on the screen real quick. But it is just, it's all the stuff you would expect to hear in the 90s, except the show is set in 2022. So anyway, like, Carmy starts reading this Al-Anon pamphlet that emphasizes he needs to be, like, forgiving and honest and humble, find hobbies, and keep going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. He can't sleep. He gets all tossing and turning. And you know what I like to do when I can't sleep is I like to get up and go to work. I don't know. I don't know if that's your experience as well. In the military, when you couldn't sleep, did you just report to your post?
No, but there was one time where I ended up waking up about 3 hours too early and showed up to work at midnight. My brain was like,
go ahead.
So like I had been late a few times, so like my brain was like overcorrecting bad.
I'll make up for it. I'll show up this many times early, and then I can be late this much.
I showed up. Everyone on night shift was like, "What the fuck is this dude doing here?" And I'm looking at the clocks, and dude, I tell you, I swear, I was looking at the clocks. I didn't see midnight. I saw 4 a.m. when I needed to be there. Like, it took me like an hour of sitting there at the desk to look up and go, "Oh no."
I wish jobs did let you build up like a time bank, because there are definitely days, like, especially not now, but in my 20s, I absolutely would have done like 2 24-hour shifts. Like, I would have done 24 hours on Monday and 24 hours on Wednesday and taken the rest of the week off. That would have got me, 40 hours plus 8 hours of overtime, and working 24 hours straight. It would have been a shitload of double time too, and I would have just then fucked off. I would, like, you wouldn't see me Thursday or Friday. Be like, oh, Friday's bagel day. I'd be like, fuck that, I'll buy my own bagels. Not waking up at 7 a.m. to sit in traffic on Lawrence Expressway. Eat my dick.
Dude, work would be so much better if you could go ahead and like establish your own schedule like that.
Yeah, and then when we say that, people are like, oh, no, we have core hours and you need to come into our buildings because we already rented these buildings. And, what will middle management do if they can't walk around and stare at people?
Not my problem.
Yeah. Right? Sorry you hired Brian. Like, we didn't tell you to do that.
Nobody likes Brian.
Maybe fire him and then like start paying us a little bit more. Maybe we'll show up
that'll
more.
never happen.
Oh, I know it won't.
Carmy can't sleep. He goes into office. He sees that Marcus has decorated the walls of his station with inspiration from Carmy's previous menus, like desserts that Carmy had.
Yeah, flashbacks.
I copied them out of your books. I mean, if it's too much, I could take it down.
No, it looks good.
On the wall, etc. Or on the menu, not on the wall. And he's like, oh, it's like inspiration. It's going to motivate me. I want to do better. And then Carmy starts explaining what I can only call the most overcomplicated dessert in the world. It's like this 12-person dessert that takes hours and hours to make, like this perfect plum like tart thing. I don't remember what it was called in the show. Viewers, clip right now.
Well, it takes 12 people to prep that.
But there's but yeah, as he was describing this, I was like, this is why, right? This is my personal thing. I'm not saying nobody could taste this. I would not be able to taste the difference between a dessert that took like 69 hours and 400 laborers to make and a dessert that took one dude 45 minutes to make, right? I don't have that palate. And so,
Well,
yeah, and it costs like $80.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dude, you and I've hung out whenever I've done a brisket, and you like, can you tell the difference whenever I've done like an 8-hour smoke versus a 16-hour smoke?
Nope. Absolutely not.
I can, because I was there witnessing it, but in a fancy restaurant, I'm not going to be the one eating a 45 plum fucking au jus.
Yeah. Well, 45 plum au jus. It took 45 people 12 hours to make this fucking meat juice from a plum.
The French
we do get like a
fucking hang me.
Yeah, there's one person in France right now, you motherfucker. Actually, that's probably not true. There's probably like 8 chefs out there who are like, you dipshits. But yeah, we do get one like nice little bit in this, besides Carmy kind of showing that, like, one, he does know what the fuck he's talking about. I think it's been relatively established that he knows the cooking part of things, but this is a nice like reminder of like, these are all the different things I've learned. Like, I've done incredibly for myself as a chef. I've learned a lot. I've trained in amazing places. I was the CDC at fucking one of the best restaurants in the world. So I do know what I'm doing. But we also get to see like Marcus really warming up to him, and then Sydney kind of getting to drop in and drop some knowledge, because he's asking like, do you know how we get this to like thicken? She's like,
You know, he spent every minute of like a year trying to figure it out.
So how do you do it?
Well,
Feel fat.
What?
Feel fat congeals when it's cold. So
yeah. No, that's right.
So fire.
you use veal juice, I think it was, or veal juice sounds weird. Veal blood, veal fat. I mean, I guess you could call it veal juice, but if I cut myself, I don't go like, I'm juicing everywhere. So it's not really the same thing.
Veal jizz. I was waiting for you to like slip that one in there.
Oh no, I don't slip that in anything. I put that in there proudly, and I charge $89.95 for it.
That's fucking disgusting.
But yeah, then, oh man, then we get Ibrahim walking by the office while Carmy's trying to figure out like the bookkeeping, and he asks, and this is where I think Ibrahim's on the money, right? Carmy asks this weird question. He's like, why was he buying 10 2s and why was he buying 2 8s? And I was like, what are you fucking asking?
Hey, any reason Michael wasn't ordering number 10s of these?
English, Carmy.
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
You know, like, speak English, dude. Like, I don't understand. When Richie was yelling at him 2 episodes ago about, like, what the fuck are you saying with housekeeping? Richie was being an ass, but, you know, he kind of has a point. You can't yell terms at people that they don't know.
Right.
But yeah, and then basically what he's asking is, why was Michael buying these smaller 28-ounce cans instead of these large 102-ounce cans? Because the 102 ounce is cheaper per ounce. And what's that line from Ibrahim?
The more I learn about Michael, the less I understand. Rest in peace, young man.
The more I learn about Michael, the less I understand.
And I'm right there with him. At this point, Michael seems like a confusing dude. So it's obviously tragic, right? He took his own life. He had addiction issues, etc. And I mean, he hung out with Richie all the time, which seems to be detrimental. But on the flip side, it doesn't seem like he ran this fucking business very well. He took out a $300,000 loan from basically a loan shark, his uncle. And he seems like irresponsible. And so, yeah, Ibrahim is speaking for the audience here. The more we hear about this guy, the less any of it makes sense. Like, what the fuck was Michael doing?
Right.
But yeah, and then Carmy pulls Sydney in and starts talking about implementing a French Brigade system for the beef, where we get our episode Brigade. It is basically a system of hierarchy. It's what you've seen in 1,000 movies and 1,000 TV shows. I think most higher end restaurants use this structure because, as far as I know, the French are the first to make kind of like formalize the process in the kitchen and regiment it, and being renowned for their cuisine and also, you know, being able to replicate it at a high level and a high consistency. Most people copied it. I don't know about all around the world. I really haven't been anywhere outside of like Europe and America, but there are. I mean, I've seen this show. I've seen this style of kitchen on multiple shows in multiple locations. Pretty much anywhere people go, it seems to be the high-end restaurants run a French Brigade. Sydney is immediately and correctly against this, in my opinion. He's like, we need to do this, and she tells him, you know what, like, no. It's going to be a fucking disaster. These people already don't want to work with me. They already barely want to work with you. So this is going to be too much. And he's like, well, you should do it.
It's a mistake.
It'll help.
It'll create a toxic, hierarchical shit show.
What is it now?
A shit show, but with that type of system, I'd have even less of a voice. You'd have even more of a headache at the end of the day. No. Yeah, but...
We want to change this restaurant, right?
Right?
I will dial business. You are everything else. Let's try.
Okay.
You know how many employers have asked me to do stuff, and I'm like, that's not gonna work. They're like,
don't you empathize with Sydney so much at this point? After the last 3 or 2 episodes, right, where we see her come into this chaos and then have to deal with fucking cousin Richie, you know, him, we're taking my car. I don't care. You know, like, fucking now this shit where your boss is like, hey, do a thing that's a bad idea. And you're like, hey, it's a bad idea. And they're like, well, I've thought about it. And you're like, for 3 seconds, so yeah, we're going to do it.
You, in that position, I would, especially considering like Sydney was in the room to hear Ibrahim go, the more I learn about Michael, the less I understand. I would have looked at him and I would have looked at Carmy and been like, hey, you know how you're not understanding what Michael's doing? I'm not understanding what you're fucking doing.
Yeah. But yeah, and then then Carmy calls a team meeting and is like, hey guys, I respect your system. I want to work with it. I don't want to fucking overthrow it entirely. And so we've put another system on top of that. Here's Sydney. She's in charge. Bye.
Okay, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole and change your guys' system, okay? I don't want to fuck it up. I don't want to meddle with it or whatever the fuck, all right? I want to harness it.
Oh, he gets team aprons for everybody, blue team aprons. And Tina and Richie, I feel like one other person were like, I'm not going to wear this.
We're implementing a French Brigade.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. Fuck that.
That's bullshit.
And this is where I'm start being like, you know what? Tina's kind of an asshole. Maybe there's 2 assholes in this kitchen, and one of them's Richie, and the other one is Tina.
Well, it wasn't so. Angel's the new character that I don't remember from like the first 2 episodes, but I think he took the apron.
Yeah, I feel like there was a third person who didn't take it, but I could just maybe Neil was there and I just wasn't paying attention.
Maybe I know that Ibrahim was kind of like iffy on it because he's like
until he gets to become the meat chef. Chef de partie. But yeah, fucking Sydney's doing the staff meeting and assigning roles, and of course Richie comes in and is a joke, like makes a whole joke about it and is a fucker. The phone is ringing off the hook in the background here. But Sydney tells Tina that she's the garde manger who takes care of like cold dishes and garnishes. Ibrahim is the chef de partie, and his role is to prepare meals. And Ibrahim's fucking killing it in this scene. When Carmy says he's going to introduce a brigade, Ibrahim's like, I was in a brigade as a child. Many people died.
Okay.
Carmy, no. I was in a brigade once.
What happened?
Many people died.
Ibrahim, are you okay? Do you need therapy?
What have you seen, man? Like, we need to know. He also, as soon as he gets told, he's like, your role is to prepare the meats. He's like, I graciously accept.
Yes, which means you are now the chef de partie.
Chef de partie.
Yes.
I accept.
We cut over to Carmy answering the phone. Michael's name comes up a lot in this. I'm starting to get confused. But we get to kind of Carmy answering the phone here. And somebody named Nico is looking for Michael. And Carmy's like, yeah, he's not here because Michael's been dead for 4 months. And Carmy has like a little mini panic attack. Like this takes him back to when Michael was alive. We don't see that on screen, but that's what the character's kind of, he says out loud to Richie. Richie's like, who the fuck was that? And he's like, some dude named Nico looking for Michael. And he really like kind of breaks down. And to Richie's credit, Richie isn't an asshole. He's not like, oh, you so-and-so, I can't believe you're crying, some shit like that. He's actually human in this moment. Yeah, then back at the meeting, Marcus gets to be the pâtissier, and he suggests that they outsource the bread so that he can begin making desserts. Sydney makes herself the sous chef, which was already done by Carmy, and then the saucier. And we finally find out what Richie's role in the restaurant is. It is whatever the fuck Richie does.
Yeah, it's called dickhead.
Yeah. And then she implements a bunch of stuff like some pre-service meetings, front of house walkthrough, end of day review, blah, blah, blah. And she literally says like, I want to do this to kind of like help reduce the chaos. And my Carmy bursts through the door and runs out of the restaurant.
I know it seems like a lot and kind of annoying, but I promise this type of structure will be super helpful. It'll make things run smoother, calmer.
Chef, I gotta run a quick errand. Could you hold down the board? Thank you, Chef.
Just like that.
Perfect comedic timing.
Right? It was fucking good. I was like, oh, yeah, so now that you're gone, I think I'm leaving too.
Sydney starts, stressing out because this is their first new role type, first day with the new roles, etc. She's hiding in the walk-in fridge for a minute. Then she does like a walkthrough. She gets on Tina's case for not following the system and for insubordination, which, I mean, this is Tina's entire character so far. One of her first interactions that we get as an audience is her telling Carmy he cuts vegetables like a bitch. So I'm not sure what Sydney thought was going to happen. I'm not sure what Carmy thought was going to happen.
What the hell were you thinking?
And honestly, like, this is one of those times where I don't want to be like, oh, you should fucking fire Tina, but Tina is obviously a problem, and I don't get the impression that she's such a good cook that he needs her specifically. The only thing I can think of is that Michael probably wasn't paying them very much, if anything at all, and hiring somebody else to take over for her would cost more.
That definitely, but also, she's been there forever, so Carmy probably sees her as family.
But Carmy hasn't been there forever. Carmy's only been there for a few months,
Very true. But
so,
Carmy always wanted to work there.
Yeah, and Michael wouldn't let him.
Yeah, so he probably interacted with the whole entire troop.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. For me, that's not a motivation. I'd fire my own mom if she was doing a bad job, if she was acting like an asshole.
Yeah, but Carmy's a sweetheart.
He is, surprisingly. Then we get Ibrahim cooking the family meal. His instructions are basically don't use too many pots. And he makes chicken sakar, which is a dish from Somalia. It looked fucking delicious, in my opinion.
Oh, family sukar. Great. Chef, you got mache?
Yes, Jeff.
Where are the onions?
She scorns Marcus for being distracted, and then she accidentally cuts herself on a fucking box cutter that somebody left open. And this is a pet peeve of mine from working at Sears and other places.
Sid, you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. Yes.
Whoa, you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Let me see what happened.
Nothing
Sydney, sure.
has happened. I am fine. Please, let's just close the box cutter. Thank you, and not fucking put it there. Excuse me.
Is if you are using a box cutter, please retract the blade, or make sure that if it's not retracted, like if you're going to come grab it again, it's somewhere where everyone can see it so you don't fucking stab yourself on it. It's also a pet peeve of mine from roommates loading a dishwasher with the knife blades facing up. I'm like, hey, like, one, that's a Final Destination death, and also two, you need to if you're gonna do that, you unload the dishwasher so that when you reach in there and cut yourself, you'd be like, oh,
right. I this is another one that would have this probably would have been where I would have been fired because I would have punched somebody.
yeah. And then Tina fucking turns up the heat on Sydney's stock that she's making as if it's a funny fucking joke.
No, you two look like you joined the dumbass cult.
Thank you.
Stupid fucking hate.
I give it a try, bro. I think. Really? You're not trying to put
This much you promised. How could I ever forget? Listen.
sabotage.
And this is where I do actually get pissed off at Tina. It's one thing to be like kind of a flippant dick back to your boss, whatever, right? One thing to play, like we'll see in just a few minutes, they play like a practical joke on her. Sure, right? But that's a lot of stock, and this is your fucking business, right? Like, you want to get paid, then this shit needs to be right. And so, like, you not agreeing with it versus you sabotaging it are two very different things. And yeah, if I was Sydney, this would be like, Tina, you're out of here, right? Like, I'm sorry. I know she doesn't know that Tina did it, but that was my suspicion would be that she did it, and then I'd be very upset.
Yeah, I understand, and it was fucked up on her part. I do find it interesting that she decided to go ahead, like that was the route that they wanted to go to showcase that her and Sydney didn't like mesh very well. But
yeah.
when Carmy came in later on, that one also took me off.
Carmy returns back to the restaurant. He does see Richie making some sort of deal in the alleyway. We don't really find out what that's about. Maybe we're supposed to believe that that's a Nico, but the show doesn't confirm it for us, so there's nothing we can really, we can only guess. Carmy, he walks in, he sees that Sydney's not there. She's taking care of like her finger. He does his own walkthrough and discovers the pot of boiling stock. He then kind of like yells at Sydney for her lack of technique. Even though she's really trying to explain like what to do or what she could do with it. And Richie, in his least helpful way, he jumps in after they're already like moved past the problem. And he goes, "It's not low enough." And they're like, "Thanks, Richie."
Yo! Shit. Fuck.
Oh, sorry.
Stock's boiled.
Yes.
It's too cloudy.
Yes,
the
it's
heat was
too
too high.
high.
You didn't
I
skim
know,
it properly.
I put
Also,
it
you cannot
lower
add
earlier.
veg before it's boiled. You know better than that, chef.
I put it lower earlier. I don't know.
Low enough.
Thanks.
Dude, Richie is like just the biggest fucking dick.
Yeah. And then he fucking yells he basically yells at Sydney. Sydney's trying to say, just make it a Jew. And he's like, no, reduce it into a demi-glaze, and then he's like, where the fuck are the onions? Prepare the onions. Sydney tries to say that was Tina's job, and he kind of ignores her. Sydney starts preparing a shitload of onions, and her cut in her glove reopens. And I don't think I could be a chef. Like, I think that this is where, like, this is the sort of thing where I'm like, I couldn't, right? It's one thing to be stressed out from front of house, right? Like customers, you get into customer service, you expect it. But yeah, when your boss is being both a wank and also you're on a time crunch and also you have to make up for somebody else's fucking mistakes because they are being spiteful and your boss doesn't do shit about it, I'd have been like, well, find a new sous chef, enjoy your brigade.
Well, I think this transfers over to like most jobs. Anytime like I've ever had to go ahead and cover down for someone else because they fucked something up, I'm so fucking annoyed. Fucking annoyed.
Absolutely. You're right. It's pretty universal, right? The feeling, I mean, it goes back even farther. I'm sure you guys had group projects in high school where there was always that one motherfucker who showed up like 4 days after it started being like, wait, what are we doing?
Dude, last semester we had a group project where one of the students, like I had been constantly trying to contact her every single day since the project started. She finally responded on the day the assignment was already turned in and said, "Hey, can I go ahead and do anything?"
Yeah, you could tell the teacher. Sydney does another walkthrough. You can tell she's getting fucking irritated. She tells everybody to clean out the disgusting little fridges and everything. She gets on Gary. This is one of like the first times we've seen Gary have some real lines too. for the lack of cleanliness. She's like, oh, you know that wiping thing? It'd be pretty cool if you did it to the floor, And he's like, yeah, yes, chef.
Already ready before service. Plus, Manny and Angel are helping you out with paper cups and plates, but that's not really their duty, you feel me? Plus, love the wiping, love that energy. Maybe we do it like on the floors, because they are so dirty. I almost broke my neck, and honestly, I think I'm gonna pass out just looking at them. What's up?
Yes, chef.
Great, okay.
Then she realizes that her onions have gone missing while she was doing her walkthrough. She goes and tells Carmy. Carmy's like, yeah, they took them. They did it to me last week. This is, kind of a thing. Just let them do it. And then Marcus comes back out with the onions. He's like, haha, we got you. Like, not reading the room very well. Like, she's clearly not having it today. She gets pissed off. In her anger, she goes to reach for some veal stock that's on the top shelf. It's too high for her to get. Marcus asks, can I help you with that?
No, don't.
Are you sure?
I am fucking sure. Do you ask Carmy if he's sure? No,
just saying, it's
you
just
don't.
heavy.
So you stick to your shit, okay? I'll stick to mine.
Yes, chef.
And she's like, would you ask Carmy if you could help him with that? Which I think is relatively fair because Carmy's about the same height, And so she's making a point about, you're only asking me because I'm a woman, or you're asking me because you think I can't do it. But unfortunately for her, she can't. It spills as she's trying to get it, and a whole bunch of veal stock gets wasted on the ground. Marcus sees it and just quietly helps her clean it up. No, I told you so's, no nothing, which Marcus is a good dude. So, to be expected. Back in the office, Carmy is just going through these books. And I don't know if you took a good look at the books, but half the time it looks like there's just doodles in the finance things. Like where it's like somebody's just like a person drawn on the page. I was like, that's not a good idea for bookkeeping purposes. You get audited, the IRS is not going to be like, yes, we had one doodles.
Taxes paid through doodles. You're good.
Yeah. So towards the end of The Office, there's a character who gets fired, and when somebody asks, somebody else who replaces him asks, like, what's his symbol? They're like, oh, they called that a clevin. And they're like, what the fuck is a clevin? He's like, it's a made-up number they used to basically balance the books so that they could go home on time. And you're like, oh my God. And this apparently has been going on for years.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, so family meal is ready. Sydney is like, I'm not doing this shit. She goes outside. And this is kind of like our big set piece of the... set piece isn't right, but our big scene of the entire show, or this entire episode. The scene runs for almost 5 minutes. It starts at 22 and a half minutes and ends shortly before 27 and a half minutes. So this is clearly what this episode was building to. Carmy comes outside, brings her a plate of family meal, kind of tells her, like, why don't you talk to me? Like, what's going on? She hits him with the whole, today really fucking sucked for me. And the biggest problem that I had was you don't listen, right? Like, this place can be great. And I mean, he's got a couple responses that I think are fair when he's like, sometimes your job is to listen to your boss.
You kind of let everybody act like trash and really kind of came at me a little, I guess.
I expect more from you. I hold you to a higher standard.
Pay my dues.
Doing your job, which is to, at times, listen to your boss.
And I think that's fair. Like, she might have a good feel for people and how she's being received. Like, she's a very self-aware person. But Carmy is the one who has worked at these restaurants, these high-end restaurants, who understands the Brigade and knows how to work through some of these issues. And we'll talk a little bit about that after we're done kind of jumping through the episode here. But something I noticed while they're talking, and I love this fucking little detail, is there's some shots where Sydney's got her back up against a container, and Carmy's sitting on a wall, like, or it's not on a wall, on a bench up against the wall, kind of like across from her, like diagonally across from her. And the camera will shoot over Sydney's right shoulder so that it's focused on, or it's looking at Carmy, and Sydney's kind of off on the left side of the screen. And when they're talking in this, like when she's talking, it focuses on her, and then when he's talking, she gets blurry and it focuses on him. But it's not like a massive visual effect. It's kind of like a slow fade, almost to symbolize that even though they're having this communication, they're still not really listening to each other, right? There's still a lot of static in the way. And I think that's pretty fucking dope. I thought this scene was shot beautifully. He owns up to it when she says, that she wants him to fucking listen, and he just fucking brushed her off. She's like, I get that sometimes you just got to be doing it, but the reason I'm here is because I think I can make this place better. I can work with you to make this place something amazing, and you won't even fucking listen. And he owns it. He's like, yeah, I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and she gets him with the chef. That's too personal.
I went to an Al-Anon meeting. My brother, he was an addict.
Chef, that is a little too personal, I think.
Oh.
Sorry. I was just fucking with you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
And he's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. She's like, I'm just fucking with you. But yeah, he vows, he's like, I had to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. My brother was fucked up. But it's not an excuse. And she's like, she's like, I know. And he's like, good. She's like, but now I know that you know that too. And I think that's important. I think that's something that we forget when we talk a lot about people redeeming themselves. Everyone's got an excuse for something. And there's sometimes where you have to tell people like X, Y, or Z is not an excuse. But anyway, and then they kind of end on their mutual hatred of brunch. I don't know if brunch service sucks to run or if it's uninteresting. Maybe it's just frying bread and making eggs, but I don't know. They seem to not like it. And the scene finally ends with Carmy once again kind of flashing back to the beginning of the episode. We see Carmy walking quietly in Chicago, staring out at Lake Michigan. And he's listening to a voicemail from his sister, which is letting him kind of being like, hey.
I came home to face what we faced.
Hey, it's me again. Not sure why you're not calling me back, but it's Michael's birthday, and I'm thinking about you.
I know it's Michael's birthday. I miss him too. Talk to me. And the episode kind of fades out. We got some REM playing. What did you think about this episode?
I thought it was a good episode. It showed the dynamic between different people. It showed how it's doing the same thing that they've been doing since episode 1. The original team does not like change, and you know how it is. You join a new group of employees, and if they're old, they're set in their ways, and then you come in and you're like, hey, look, I understand you're set in your ways, but this is going to be more effective to get what we need done. And they're like, nah, fuck you.
Yeah, and God help you if you actually replaced somebody or took a spot from somebody in people's minds. They're like, oh, one of our guys should have got it. Dealt with that before. And that was not a fun few months. I won everybody over because I was better than the person that they wanted to promote. But yeah.
The other thing, I really felt for Sydney in this, being put in the position where you're in charge of someone or people that are older than you, that have been doing this longer than you, even though you are skilled enough to go ahead and you are more skilled to be in the leadership position for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Is never fun. I fucking hate it. When I worked with my brother, I was in charge of someone who was 45 and had been doing tree work for 30 years. So I was in high school when he first started.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. My most frustrating is is basically moving from peer to leadership of the people that you were just the peer of. Because that is a very tricky situation for a lot of people.
Yeah, because they want to treat you like a friend.
Well, and they want you to be cool with all the shit you used to be cool with. Which I do understand, but yeah, at a certain point where I'm like, fuck it, I don't care if you're late. Now I have to be the guy who's like, yeah, I do care if you're late because my boss cares if you're late. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making 25 cents more an hour, buddy. Those extra $2 a day really add up. That, at the time, was 2 extra McChickens. Now it's half a McChicken. I have no idea how much a McChicken costs. I haven't been to McDonald's in a while, but I assume it costs more than $2 at this point.
More than likely.
So yeah, food-wise, pretty much everything that Michael has or that Marcus has on the wall, pretty fucking good looking.
Oh yeah. I also like how he wants to go ahead and make donuts.
Yeah, which will come up in the next
oh shit! Yeah,
episode.
that's the next episode. That's one of those things that's really hard to like keep them separated sometimes.
Yeah, we're watching, for the audience at home, we're watching 2 episodes at a time. So sometimes they blur into each other because there's a thing that happens between Tina and Sydney in the next episode that I like wanted to bring up here, and I was like, oh fuck that.
Yeah.
Episode.
I was struggling with that too because I was like, wait, this episode or next episode? It's hard.
Well, so this is something that I feel like you could tag this show with, is that here in the beginning, you even touched on it a little bit, we're kind of still doing the same thing. It's a very slow burn to get this fucking this crew up to speed, right? And so we're seeing little signs of it. The apron thing was nice, right? Ibrahim is on board. The Marcus, I couldn't think of his name. I was like, the patisserie, and I was like, yeah, because I'm French. Marcus is on board. Sydney's on board, but we can still see some resistance from people. Richie's not on board with Carmy, and fucking Tina's not on board, etc. And so we're slowly watching this unit cohese, but it kind of feels like the stuff at the restaurant is the same general conflict that's been happening for the last few episodes. And I mean, we're only on episode 3. It's fine. But this is only an 8-episode season, and you're kind of hoping that stuff at the restaurant, like something will fucking happen. You know? But here, it's I get it. They're building up these characters, and we're getting these relationships so that future developments will feel better or worse, depending on what they want. The chicken sukkar that he made, oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever looked at like a chicken sukkar before?
No, not until this episode.
Yeah, they look amazing, right? There's something, this reminds me of something I saw in Morocco, but it wasn't served like this, and I can't remember the name of the dish in Morocco, but it was like a tagine chicken thing that had like cinnamon and raisins and stuff, and it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, this is good. The guy who served it to us, he's like, this is my mom's special recipe, so you better not say anything bad. I was like, I'd love to meet your mom and tell her that I love this.
You know, you said raisins, and everybody that I ever served with despised raisins, so they're going to hear this episode and go, nah, fuck this shit.
Yeah, well, pretty much everybody that I know outside of like 2, maybe 3 people hates fucking raisins. It's the most popular opinion on food, right?
I don't understand it, man. Oatmeal raisin cookies are amazing.
Yeah.
Ooh, I hate raisins.
Raisins I like, but I like craisins better.
When appropriate. Very rarely, though, in my book.
Raisins are always optional. There's nothing that a raisin can do that an M&M can't do better.
I don't like them in a cookie, but I'm fine with them in savory dishes.
All 4 raisins.
Yeah, and that's always like the one exception. Well, I like them in oatmeal raisin cookies, but other than that, I'm like, come on, chocolate raisin cookies, like they're good too, right? Fucking raisins in oatmeal itself is good. Raisins by themselves are good. I eat all the trail mix except for the raisins. I'm like, you are a cool person. Let me guess, you listen to every type of music except country, right? What a cool dude! Like,
motherfuckers passing up on fiber,
and I believe protein,
probably
at least a little bit,
little bit.
And I think they got potassium and shit in them. They're nutritious. They're high in sugars, so you shouldn't eat a fuckload of them. But at least it's natural sugar, not processed. As I understand, that makes a difference. All right, 3 episodes in. Does Carmy deserve to succeed? Do we still like Carmy?
Yeah, he's still the underdog. He's still in that same character design that I talked about like an episode or 2 ago.
Fair enough. Favorite and least favorite characters so far, and why is your favorite Sydney? I will push this forever. Sydney's the best character on this show. She deserves all the praise.
I'm not arguing with you, but I'm telling you, Marcus is kind of starting to close up on Sydney a little bit here. I'm just saying.
Marcus is pretty cool too. He's a good dude.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Sydney honestly like hits it for me because she reminds me of like any time that I've ever been put in charge of someone, a group of people that are fucking used to doing their own shit. Or like in the case of my assignment last semester, they're like, oh yeah, no, you were in the military. You seem like you're up to par for being in charge of everything. Why don't you go ahead and make sure that we all do our work? And I was like, So you want me to lead this? You motherfuckers. And then they didn't listen to me.
Hey, come on. You were a specialist.
I
Can't
was.
you specialize in group work?
I did. So I did.
Can't you specialize in this class and group work?
I'm gonna
just reallocate your talent points. You got to respec. All right. Sometimes you got to respec.
Dude, all I did was I put all of my talent points into charm. That's all I put them in. Okay.
Didn't you take the feat to let you move your stat points around?
I only have 2 feet, man, and it's the left and the right one. That's all I've got.
And none of those let you reallocate. Dude, you need to get new feats. I recommend robot feats.
Like that fungal one I showed you?
Hell yeah, dude.
So what about you? Who's my least favorite character is I wanted to say Richie, but honestly, Tina's awful.
So Richie's barely in this episode too,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, one of the saving graces, because he will become awful if you leave him in an episode long enough, right? And so I think because he's not in this episode as much, it is easier to pinpoint Tina. For me, Tina's my least favorite. Like I said, this bullshit with turning up the stock, is kind of like, are you fucking for real right now, you childish bitch? How old are you? Right? And you're going to be like, I'll make you look stupid and ruin tonight's dinner service. And then Ibrahim is pretty funny. Sydney's still the best character, hands down. I love Sydney. I think that when she says that, today really sucked and you kind of made it suck more, that was a great moment. But yeah, she has a great quote where she's talking about you're kind of the biggest problem here. And I am enabling you. It's not what she says, but it's kind of the vibe you're getting is, I know I'm enabling you to be a bad communicator, but I also want to be a better communicator, and we can make this place work. And it starts with you not being a shithead, and it starts with me being a better communicator with you.
Yeah, that was a good quote on her part.
Yeah. It wasn't, that's not the exact quote. I didn't write it down like an asshole.
Real quick, have you been noticing that the sound design in this is really good to go ahead and portray certain things? Like, as Sydney is conveying how the shop is going to go ahead and change in subtle manners, we get ball breakers in the background going like, fuck you.
Yeah.
French bullshit. Ball breakers.
They also left a lot of the background noise that you would hear in a city inn to really add that ambiance. It would have been easy to put dramatic music between, or hopeful music or whatever the fuck, between Sydney and Carmy talking at the end. But they left no music. It's traffic noise and et cetera, et cetera. I think at one point you actually hear a car horn, an alarm going off, honk, honk, honk. And I'm sure that this is all just on a set and they're running looped sound in the background, but it adds to this real fucking feel that this conversation is happening, right?
Yeah.
It grounds us. The show's really good in avoiding fantastical bullshit outside of dream sequence.
That bear was actually there. I don't know what you're talking about.
He was the first meal they served. That wasn't an Italian beef sandwich. That was an Italian bear sandwich. Hey,
yeah, because the bear fought the bear and won.
Was it bearicide? something. 2 bears, 1 cup. Two bears, 1 sandwich, 1 loaf. 2 bears, 1 hogue. Yuck. Calling a hoagie is awful. On that note, I think we're done here. You got anything else you want to talk about this episode?
Go watch this on Hulu.
Yeah, this has been The Bear on Hulu. We've been streaming Wasteland. We are getting the fuck out of here. I'm Chef Greg, and you over there is the Chef de Garden or whatever the fuck. I'll say it.
I accept.
Chef de Washington. Ringo, say goodbye, Ringo.
I was in a brigade once. Many people died.
Oh, wait. Call to action. If you like this episode, fucking leave a comment. If you didn't like this episode, leave a comment. If you like the episode of the show we're talking about, but you don't like us, leave a comment. Basically, if you have a thought, leave a comment. We'll talk to you about it. Or if you're a wanker, we won't. But for the most part, we will. Our bar for being a wanker is pretty fucking low. Or I guess high.
If you're a wanker, I'm going to throw you up on our TikTok and make fun of you.
That's factual. He will drag you on TikTok. All right. I guess that's Ovens off, closed service. I don't know what people say at the end of kitchen time. No more food. Kitchen's closed.
Get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. Yeah, I've heard that a few times. You ever been kicked out of a Denny's? I have.